Hi, I'm Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and I'm the host of the Health Explained Show. And I want to welcome you back for another episode. On today's episode, we'll be talking to Dr. Deb Matthews, and this is going to be fun because we're going to talk about more hormone stuff, but in a fun and interesting way. So thank you, Dr. Deb, for being with us today.
Hey, it's so good to be here with you.
So, how did you get involved in your area of medicine?
Well, originally I was just sort of a regular old doctor, but I was going through my own health issues. I was tired all the time. Like my favorite hobby was napping, and I was cold all the time. I live in North Carolina, and in July when it was really hot, I would go everywhere carrying a sweater because the air conditioning in the movie theaters and the restaurants would just have me like shivering like crazy. And I worked so hard to control my weight, and these things have been going on for so long that I didn't even really understand that it wasn't normal. I just thought I was a cold-natured person who needed way more sleep than everybody else, until I got into my late 30s. And then I started to get really irritable. And my poor husband felt like I was the Wicked Witch of the West. He would call from the car on his way home from work, and he could tell by my voice on the phone whether it was safe for him to come home or whether he needed to stop and put on a whole suit of armor before he walked in for his own protection. And I was shrieking at my kids, and I was even waking up at night with anxiety attacks for no good reason. There wasn't anything going on. And I just didn't understand what was happening because nothing in my medical training really explained why these things were happening to me. And what changed everything is I read a book that was written by Suzanne Summers. You remember Chrissy Snow from Three's Company? She was the ditzy blonde. And as doctors, we don't want to get our medical information from celebrities. And I didn't want to read that book. I thought if it was important, they would have taught me at medical school. But it turns out I think I need to ask for a partial refund because there's a whole bunch of stuff they left out of my medical information. So I read this book, and it was telling all these stories about women and how they used to feel, and then how much better they felt when they got their hormones back in balance. And it just exploded my brain because suddenly everything made sense. I had hypothyroidism. I knew that. I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition that causes low thyroid function. And I had been on the thyroid replacement medicine for 10 years already at this point, but I felt no different. I was cold. I was tired. I couldn't control my weight. My moods were all over the place. And so once I learned that there's all sorts of more stuff that goes into imbalanced hormones, I was able to get my hormones back into balance, and I got my energy back. My kids got their mom back. My husband got his wife back. But then I just couldn't go back to writing prescriptions all the time, all day long, because that just didn't make sense anymore. So now I help men and women get their hormones balanced so they can feel great, get off prescription drugs, and love the way they feel.
I love that. That is amazing. And, I agree with you. I think we do need to ask for a refund for medical school because I'm in the same boat as you. Like, they didn't teach us this stuff. So,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. What is something that you explain to your clients that really gets them understanding, hormones or hormones and stress? Yeah.
Well, when we're under stress, our body responds in ways to help us, and that's a good thing. So one of the main things that happens is our body makes more cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. And so in the short term, cortisol goes up, allows us to cope with things, then it goes back down, we go on our merry way, and that's great. The problem is when we have stress day in, day out, when we have this chronic stress, cortisol goes up, and sometimes it gets stuck and it's too high. We have too much cortisol. And when we have too much cortisol, it causes all kinds of symptoms. And this whole thing that's going on gets missed by our regular medical system. When we have too much cortisol going through our bloodstream, it causes us to not sleep at night. Cortisol is like long-acting adrenaline. And so it's like you've got too much adrenaline pumping through your system. You're in this fight or flight response all the time. And so when you've got all this cortisol pumping through your system, you may not be sleeping at night. A lot of times we'll have a hard time falling asleep, or else we'll wake up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning and just kind of lie there, staring at the ceiling. cortisol makes us pack on the belly fat, which is so frustrating. Even if you're, trying hard with your diet and your exercise, when you're under a lot of stress, your body is going to want to pack on the extra pounds because of that cortisol. And cortisol has a circadian rhythm. So our stress hormone, cortisol, has this really important circadian rhythm. And what is supposed to happen is it's supposed to go up in the wee hours of the morning. So it's kind of like you get this little tiny adrenaline boost in the morning. And so your eyes pop open and you leap from your bed ready to start your day. And then it slowly goes down over the day so that by the time the evening comes, you're calm and you're relaxed and you're able to fall asleep and sleep soundly through the night. That's what's supposed to happen. But what happens to a whole heck of a lot of people is that they don't get that little boost in cortisol the way they're supposed to first thing in the morning. And so their alarm goes off and they're still so tired, they're pressing snooze maybe a couple of times. When they physically get their body out of bed, their brain is just not all the way there yet. They kind of have to crawl over to the coffee pot because caffeine gives a little boost of cortisol so that our brain can wake up a bit and we can function like a human being. So generally it takes a little bit to get going in the morning, but then we can get started and we can be okay until 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon where we get this crash and burn. And then you need caffeine or a power nap or sugar or something just to make it through until dinner. And for a lot of people, they get a little bit better by dinner and then they kind of end up being tired again really early in the evening. Like they fall asleep on the couch at 8:30, earlier than when you would normally go to bed. But if they stay up late enough now, 10 o'clock at night, now they get a second wind and they're busy and getting stuff done, but then they can't fall asleep. And so when that darn alarm clock goes off the next morning, they're just so not ready to get up yet. And this pattern is so common that people don't even realize that it's not normal. Like we're used to needing caffeine in the morning and taking a sleeping pill at bedtime in order to go to sleep. It's just, and the afternoon coffee break, like it's such a part of our culture that people don't realize that it's not normal. And when cortisol is off, because cortisol regulates all your other hormones, it can mess up a whole bunch of other hormone things. So for me and my hypothyroidism, that cortisol was interfering with my thyroid function. So I was taking the pill dutifully, but it wasn't able to do its job properly because this cortisol was getting in the way. And so I was having such a hard time getting up in the morning, and I had all these little kids. So I had to get up, but I would lie on the couch and try to keep my eyes closed. And my son would be prying my eyeballs open like this, trying to get me to wake up and pay attention to him. And then in the middle of the afternoon, I got that crash and burn, and I had to have some kind of tea or coffee before I went to pick up my kids from school. And I don't know who decided that the carpool pickup line needs to be at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I'd be in my minivan, like trying to fight to keep my eyes open. And how embarrassing would it be to bump into the next minivan in front of you going 1 mile an hour in the carpool pickup line because you just could not stay awake?
I'm sitting here laughing, and it's not funny, but I'm going, oh my God, I've been here so many times before. Like for me, it was always like around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like searching for sugar, like give me chocolate, give it to me now. So yeah, and then a lot of people are drinking alcohol at night to then, because they're like, they get that second wind at night and they're like, okay, now I'm awake. So
yeah. And then they don't put themselves to bed at a decent time, right? Because finally you're getting something accomplished. And it's just so ironic. You are so tired all day, and now you're, awake at night. And of course, then you feel unrefreshed the next day. So this is a really, really common thing in our society, but there's no medicine for this because there is no medicine for this. And because there is no medicine for this, this is not something that your regular doctor is going to be able to help you deal with. And so a lot of people will go into their doctor's office and they'll say, I can't sleep. I'm tired during the day. Maybe they'll say the other things can be, it impacts your memory. it impacts your mood, it causes food cravings. So of course you're gaining weight because it makes you gain weight anyway. Plus it makes you want to eat everything in the fridge. And so when you go into your doctor to complain about these things, they don't really have the right answer. So they could give you a sleeping pill or, an antidepressant or something like that, but it's not really fixing the right problem. So the message here really is that we all need to take responsibility for our own health. And there is a lot that we can be doing to help cope with the effects of stress so that it doesn't mess up all of our hormones and keep us awake and stressed and gaining weight and not feeling good. And it's not even so much about how much stress you have. I mean, most of us have some stress, but it's not how much stress you have, it's how you allow the stress to affect you. So if you are somebody who is a worrier and you're always thinking about the worst case scenarios and you're rerunning that same thing in your head over and over again, like, I can't believe she said that to me, you're taking whatever stress you have and you're just making it worse. But if you can be somebody who is optimistic, who thinks positively, who can let things go, you can have the same amount of stress, but you're actually minimizing the negative stress, the effects of the negative stress on your body. So you're making things better just by what you're thinking. And this is so simple, but it's hard, right? Because you have to recognize when you're doing that stinking thinking, when you're thinking those negative thoughts and kind of bringing yourself down. And that's the hard part, is recognizing when you're doing it. But if you can start to be aware and catch yourself doing it, I have a couple of little tips that can help. Can I share a couple of tips?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
So the first thing, if you catch yourself in the negative thoughts and you're trying to break away, would be to say the word stop out loud, and even maybe put your hand up like stop. And when you say the sound, when you put your hand out, that kind of breaks you out of the thought pattern. And then you can choose to think about something positive. Another great tip is to keep a gratitude journal. So every day, either when you get up or before you go to bed at night, if you can write down 3 things that you're grateful for, it really helps to put you in a more positive mindset. And you can do that right in the moment. Like when you catch yourself thinking and stewing over things, if you stop yourself and think of 3 things that you're grateful for, your body cannot feel grateful and fearful, anxious, bitter, etc., at the same time. So it's a really simple way to kind of change your thought process to reduce how stress is impacting you. And that impacts all your other hormones and actually makes you healthier.
It's funny. I'm laughing. I'm thinking back when I was a resident and fellow, and I had a lot of stress during that time period. But I was also one of those people that ruminated about things. And I would come home every day and my husband would be like, "How was your day?" And I'd be like, "Today was the worst day of my life." And he'd be like, "If every day is the worst day of your life," he's like, "you may need to adjust your thermostat on what is a bad day." And I have to say that gratitude journaling, like once I started doing that, I was so surprised that when you have to sit and you have to think about things that you're grateful for, all of a sudden, like the little things that were happening that were not going as planned or were, just stressful, didn't seem as big anymore. Yeah. So,
and the more you search to think of things, because sometimes it seems like everything is crap. Sometimes it just seems like there is just nothing good happening right now, but you can always find something, right? It's a beautiful day, or it's the end of the week and the weekend is coming, or, you can always find something to be grateful for. And it really does change your chemistry and lowers your cortisol.
I also found out that when I started doing that, I started hearing things from people. Like I was always focusing on like the negative things that people were saying to me. Like if somebody was mad or somebody was annoyed, that's like all I focused on. Now, all of a sudden, when I started changing with the gratitude, all of a sudden I was hearing when people were saying thank you. And I was like, wow, everyone's saying thank you. And people were like, no, they've been saying thank you to you this whole time. You just never heard it before.
Focus on it. Yeah. Can I do one more quick little tip?
Yeah, this would be great.
And reduce stress. Yeah. So this is totally different, but we tend to sit in front of computers all day and we're typing and we get hunched over like this. And if you think about it, we're kind of partway curled into the fetal position, aren't we? And we go into the fetal position when we're scared, when there's danger, when we have to protect ourselves. So our body, our brain senses that we're kind of partway in the fetal position, and it sends a signal to the brain that there's stress and it raises cortisol. So if we can do the opposite, we can actually so if we can stretch our arms out, kind of lean back a little bit, put your head up, you're exposing your delicate belly and your throat. And so when you stretch out this way, your brain gets the message, everything is okay, you're safe right now. And that can actually lower your cortisol level and helps to reduce stress, helps keep your hormones balanced, and can make you healthier. And it feels good. So like every hour or so, if you're at the computer, if you just stretch out this way for just a few seconds, it makes a difference.
I love that.
Simple. All these things are free, doesn't take up any time, feels good.
I was just thinking, this is great. We're beginning of the school year. This is something that we should teach all our kids to do. Their teachers might be like, what are you doing? But, or even just teaching the teachers, like, get your students to do this like that. Because you're right. I didn't even, until you said that, I realized I was like hunched over my microphone, and like, that is really, that reminds me of years ago, Botox was actually trying to get approved for use in depression because they found that if people couldn't frown, they felt happier, which I would always tell my clients, like, there's a cheaper way to do that is just smile more. And that
if
when
you're
you put your, that a trigger your brain goes, wait, my face is in a smile position. I must be happy. So let's make some happy hormones.
Yeah.
So, think about when you're walking around and you see people in public, how many people are walking with their eyes furrowed and they're like grumpy and cranky and
yes. And we're all, you can just know, right? That person's caught up in whatever story they've got going on in their head right now. And it's probably just creating all the negative, hormone patterns that's not good for their health. It's not good for their heart. It's not good for their brain. Too much cortisol actually shrinks your brain. It's bad for short-term memory. So now you can't remember why you walked in or you left your car keys. It shrinks down your muscles, and your muscles are what drive your metabolic rate. So you burn more calories even while you're sleeping. It thins out your bones. So you're more likely to get osteoporosis and, break a hip when you get older. So stress leads to problems with cortisol, which leads to just aging at an accelerated rate. So who wants to age at a faster rate than absolutely necessary? So count your blessings, do some stretches, stop yourself if you're thinking the negative thoughts. And all of those things will help your cortisol to normalize.
I'm thinking this has also saved me a lot of money in cosmetic surgery. Because like, if I could slow the aging in a simple, natural way, instead of having to do a lot of anti-aging processes to my face, well, that would save me a lot of money and would make me less stressed because I'm saving money.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. So, just wrapping up, is there anything I didn't ask you about stress and cortisol that you want people to know?
Well, maybe just one more thing is, especially for women, we go through all these hormone changes. We have PMS when we're younger, then we have this perimenopausal time in our life when we go through our 40s, when our hormones are all shifting and we get anxious and we don't sleep and, we don't feel like ourselves. And then we hit menopause probably sometime in our 50s, and then things change again. And cortisol regulates all the hormones that are involved in all of these changes as we get older. So when we are more stressed, we have more symptoms of perimenopause or menopause. And there was a study that looked at women who are having a lot of hot flashes, took them to like a spa for a week and did lots of de-stressing things, and their hot flashes got a lot better. So when we can have less stress, we have less perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms. So what I think should happen is I think Blue Cross Blue Shield should pay for us all to go to the spa, but they're not asking me. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I like that idea. I think I might use it as an excuse when I go to the spa. Like, I'm doing this for my mental and physical health.
Yeah, that's true. But really at the end of the day, the bottom line here, like the message that I would like for everybody to hear is your doctor doesn't have a pill to fix you, but you have the power here. We all need to be in charge of our own health. There are some simple things that we can all do to make ourselves healthier, and living well is the best medicine.
Oh, this is amazing. Dr. Deb, where can people find out more information about you?
The website for my medical practice is signaturewellness.org. And I actually wrote a book for women to help them know whether their symptoms could be from a hormone problem or not, including from cortisol. And anybody who is interested can download a free copy at isityourhormones.com.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. Make sure everybody go check that out because that's amazing. Especially, you can download that for free. Definitely go check it out. While you're there, don't forget to hop on over to wytv7.org and check out all our other amazing programming. And there's a little button there that's going to say donate. Please hit that button. Even if it's just $1, it can make a difference. All your money's going into our scholarship programs, our community service programs, and also to bring amazing programming like this for you today. And don't forget, give me a follow at Dr. Betsy Greenleaf or Dr. Betsy Greenleaf _ on all the different social medias. I'm always putting out some fun and interesting videos. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in for another week of the Health Explained show. So once again, thank you, Dr. Deb, for taking the time to talk with us today.
It's so great to be here.